I've been chewed up and spit out by the tech world more than once, but nothing stung quite like the Tuesday morning I got demoted at Orion Cloud Systems. I'd just finished presenting 6 months of my life in the form of a glowing deck full of mock-ups, market research, and UI demos. My hands were still shaking from nerves when Rebecca Sloan, our charming, omniscient CEO, didn't even look up from her tablet. "This isn't what we do," she said flatly. "We're an enterprise solutions company, Ethan. Accounting, inventory systems. You know, real software." I stood there blinking, the screen behind me still displaying the logo Mindbridge. "It's a mental health platform," I said, trying not to sound too desperate. "The market's projected to hit $4 billion next year. We'd be first to." Rebecca looked up. Finally. Her eyes were cool steel. "And what would you know about revenue streams?" I opened my mouth, closed it again. I'd been at Orion for 3 years, contributing to every major launch. But all she saw was a junior dev who didn't know his place. Then she picked up the desk phone. "Send in Claire from HR." My stomach turned. That tone? I'd heard it before. The same cold finality that came right before entire teams were restructured. Claire arrived within seconds, holding a manila folder, and that HR smile you could spot from a mile away. "Ethan," she said like we were friends, "we're reassigning your role. You'll still be with us, just in a different capacity. Front desk receptionist." That's what the folder said. Same building, less than half the pay, no access to the dev network, no projects, no code. I wanted to throw the folder back in her face. I didn't. I nodded, smiled, walked out with the grace I didn't feel. That night, I sat in my crappy apartment, laptop glowing. On the screen, the same Mindbridge prototype I'd pitched that morning. I stared at it like it was the only thing keeping me alive. And then, like some divine tech glitch, I noticed the Orion VPN was still active. My credentials hadn't been shut off yet. That was the moment it hit me. They buried me at reception. Fine. I'd build the damn thing anyway, right there in their lobby. By Monday, I was in a button-up shirt that didn't quite fit, sitting behind the curved glass reception desk at Orion Cloud Systems, home of mediocre coffee, soulless software, and now, my very unofficial headquarters. Orion Cloud Systems. "How may I direct your call?" I said it with a smile. Every time. But underneath that surface, my personal laptop sat just below the counter, screen tilted strategically. I wasn't building call logs. I was building Mindbridge. I routed everything through a secure VPN dual email aliases. Remote Git backups. I wasn't just covering my tracks, I was digging a tunnel. And I wasn't alone. First person I called? Marcus, a former student from a coding boot camp I volunteered at. Smart kid, raw talent, no ego. "You want an in?" I asked. "Only if I can work on the matching algorithm," he replied. "The AI part's garbage in every mental health app I've tried." He was in. Then I called Ava, my college roommate and now a UX lead in Chicago. She was halfway through a redesign sprint when I pitched her. "That idea you told me about last year, you're actually building it?" I nodded. "In a lobby, on borrowed Wi-Fi." She laughed, then said, "Send me the Figma board. I'm in." Lastly, I looped in Claire, my cousin, the one who negotiated her own way into Stanford Law. "You sure you're not violating anything?" I asked. "As long as you don't use their code, servers, or trademarks," she said. "You're clean. But cover your ass. No mercy clauses in your contract." By the end of that week, we were fully operational. Unofficially. I answered phones by day, built a startup by night, and quietly sponged every conversation I overheard at the front desk. It was wild how invisible I became in that role. Chloe Sloan, Rebecca's niece, would waltz in talking about disrupting mental wellness to her VC friend on speakerphone, not realizing the receptionist in the corner had literally created the app she was describing. I took notes. Lots of them. Marcus and I had nightly coding sessions. Ava kept feeding us intuitive UI layouts that felt more like journaling with a friend than clicking buttons on a sterile app. We called it digital empathy. It became our North Star. At home, my apartment was a graveyard of ramen bowls and sticky notes. Sleep was optional. Focus wasn't. 1 month in, we had a beta prototype. Real users, real feedback. The matching algorithm worked. The peer network was thriving. The AI tools? Raw, but promising. But I was slipping. Burnout creeping in. Eyes bloodshot. Days blending together. Until one day, while updating the notification flow, I felt a shadow fall over me. I looked up. Rebecca Sloan, standing across the desk. Perfect posture. Slightly arched brow. "What are you working on, Ethan?" she asked. My heart hammered, but my screen was already minimized. "Just cleaning up my inbox during my break," I said smoothly. She nodded, eyes lingering just long enough to raise suspicion. "Remember," she added, "everything you do on Orion property should serve Orion's mission." "Yes, ma'am." She walked off. I didn't exhale until the elevator doors closed. That night, I messaged the team. "We need to move faster. We're not just building now. We're racing a ticking clock." I always knew the clock was ticking. Every time the front doors at Orion Cloud Systems slid open, I half expected to see someone from HR with a smile that didn't reach their eyes and a cardboard box with my name on it. But the days kept passing, and no one seemed to notice the receptionist quietly reinventing digital mental health support one keystroke at a time. Until the world did. It started with a casual Slack ping from Ava during a Tuesday lunch break. "Ava, have you seen this?" Attached was a link to a Tech Pulse article. New startup Mindglow aims to revolutionize mental health space founder Chloe Sloan, backed by none other than Rebecca Sloan. My thumb froze over my phone. I read it twice, then again. The description was nauseatingly familiar. AI-powered therapy prompts, peer matching systems, personalized journaling UI. They even used a tagline suspiciously close to ours, bringing clarity to your chaos. Ours had been making space for your mind. No mention of me. No reference to the pitch I gave Rebecca 6 weeks ago. Just Chloe, grinning next to a whiteboard, pretending she invented my app. A part of me wanted to laugh. Of course. This was classic Orion playbook. Reject, recycle, rebrand. Another part of me just wanted to break something. I called Ava immediately. "She's ripping us off," I said. "You think she saw the prototype?" No, she didn't have to. She saw the pitch. Rebecca saw the structure. They knew the idea had legs, just not with me. Ava was quiet for a second. Then, "So, what are we gonna do?" I hung up and walked straight to the break room, pretending to refill the cheap coffee we all hated. Chloe was already there, leaning against the counter like she owned the place, talking about disruption to someone on speaker again. She hadn't even seen me. "We're targeting beta by next month," she said. "But I think we can beat the market if we speed up onboarding. It's all about the peer feedback loop." Beta. 1 month. That meant we were racing to the same finish line. I messaged the group that night. "Ethan, they didn't just reject Mindbridge. They're cloning it." "Marcus, you serious?" "Ava, can we prove it?" "Claire lawyer cousin, only if they use your code. Ideas aren't protected unless they're implemented identically." So I did what I do best. I watched. I listened. I gathered. From my seat at the front desk, I heard executive whispers, beta testing slips, design prototypes half shielded by folders. I pieced together timelines and priorities. Even saw Chloe carry in an investor pitch deck that had our exact user segmentation strategy, which I had outlined in my original pitch to Rebecca. She didn't just want to bury me. She wanted to become me. But Mindglow was all surface, no soul. I downloaded it the second it dropped in closed beta, and I felt nothing. It was pretty, sure. Clean lines, punchy language, perfect lighting for every brand photo. But it was sterile. The AI responses read like they were written by someone who'd never been sad a day in their life. The peer support groups were just group chats, unmoderated, messy, impersonal. It looked like wellness, but it didn't feel like healing. And then came the bombshell. Marcus, we've got a bug. It was almost midnight. We were reviewing stability logs for our next build, and his voice sounded off. What kind? He hesitated. The matching algorithm. It's not filtering flagged content properly. A few users got paired with trolls during testing. My stomach dropped. Mindbridge wasn't supposed to harm anyone. That was the whole point. The reason I started this at all, Jordan. My friend who'd spiraled during the pandemic because every app felt like a bot and every therapist had a wait list. We can't launch like this, I said. We'd need at least 2 weeks to rebuild the logic, Marcus said. Could maybe cut that to 10 days if Ava scales back her UI sprint. I paced the room, stepping over empty coffee cups and charger cables. We were behind, and now MindGlow had a 3-week head start and a PR team. Claire messaged me the next morning. Claire, you've got options. None of them clean. She outlined them. We could sue, which would take months and likely end nowhere. We could launch buggy and risk hurting people. Hell no. Or we could go quiet, delay launch, refocus, outbuild them. We make it so good no one cares who came first, she said. So that's what we did. We stopped chasing headlines. We dug in. Ava rewrote the onboarding flow with clearer safety warnings. Marcus overhauled the flagging system. I went back to the therapy prompt builder and reprogrammed how the AI adapts to mood tags. And we did something MindGlow didn't. We started testing with real people, teachers, warehouse workers, parents, college kids, people who didn't talk like tech blogs, people who didn't care about buzzwords. Every night I used the app myself, not just to debug, but because I needed it. I'd open it up after 12 hours of answering phones, pretending I didn't hear the snickers from Chloe's clique, pretending I wasn't absolutely fried. And Mindbridge would ask, "How are you, really?" And I'd answer. Sometimes I'd vent, sometimes I'd cry. Once, I left the app open all night just for the soft background prompts that reminded me I was still here, still trying. One morning, 2 weeks before our new launch date, I came into work to find my drawer half open. My laptop was slightly off its usual angle. I checked the hidden webcam I'd installed after Rebecca's little chat. There she was, Chloe Sloan, 3:17 a.m., executive keycard, 20 minutes at my desk copying files. She thought she had it, thought she was clever, thought the receptionist had no teeth. What she didn't know, the files she stole were decoys, fragments of old code laced with a digital fingerprint. Proof of theft, enough to burn MindGlow to the ground. I sent a message to Claire, insurance secured. Then another to Marcus and Ava. We're done reacting. It's our move now. The morning after Chloe snooped through my drawer, I walked into Orion like nothing had happened. Suit. Smile. Orion Cloud Systems. How may I direct your call? My voice didn't even shake, but my chest was on fire. That wasn't a slip-up. That was an ambush. And it meant one thing. They were scared. They knew MindGlow was a hollow shell, and they were hoping to steal substance from the one place they never expected to find it, the receptionist's desk. The irony? They'd taken the bait perfectly. The code Chloe copied wasn't just useless. It was rigged. Marcus and I had crafted it weeks earlier. A Trojan horse packed with just enough structure to look convincing, but underneath, a litany of mismatched functions, loops that never ended, and the signature we'd embedded deep in the comments. Property of Mindbridge Technologies. Unauthorized use constitutes infringement. Now we had proof. Undeniable. Time-stamped. Identified. But proof alone isn't power. Proof has to be seen, and for that, we needed an audience. Public launch isn't enough, Ava said during our nightly strategy call. We need impact. We need spectacle. Claire leaned in. What if we do both at once? What do you mean? I asked. She grinned. A reveal and a launch. A coordinated moment where MindGlow collapses and Mindbridge rises. One app fails, the other becomes the savior. We all paused. It was bold, risky, and exactly the kind of move we needed. So we started planning. Every line of code, every social post, every investor pinged time down to the second. Liam, who had quietly left Orion's department the month before, agreed to help us remotely. He didn't love what Chloe and Rebecca were doing either. In fact, he'd been rooting for me all along. I watched you route your builds through a VPN. The moment they demoted you, he admitted. Smart move. I sent him the decoy code Chloe stole and asked if he could track how it was being used. Already traced it to MindGlow's latest push to staging. He replied the next day. They're running tests on your trap as we speak. Perfect. While they were debugging a bomb, we were polishing gold. Marcus finished reprogramming the support network's safety filters. Ava ran 5 rounds of user testing on the new UX, each one producing more excitement than the last. And me? I started sleeping again. Not much, but enough to remember what hope felt like. 2 days before our planned launch, an email pinged into my inbox. From Dr. Sarah Chen, Horizon Ventures subject. Meeting request. Mindbridge doctor. Chen had been at Orion just weeks earlier. I'd seen her walk past my desk on her way to pitch meetings with Rebecca. But now, she wanted to talk to me. I called her from my apartment that night. Hands shaking, voice steady. You built this while answering phones? She asked after 15 minutes of reviewing the back end. Yes, ma'am. With the team of 3, technically 5. But yeah, she was silent for a moment. Then MindGlow came to us last month. Their pitch lacked depth. Yours doesn't. You understand the emotional landscape. They understand the optics. Are you saying? I'm saying I want to talk investment. Serious investment. But Ethan, there's a complication. I already knew what she was about to say. As long as you're still employed by Orion, there's a risk. They could claim your work belongs to them. I'm planning to quit, I said. Good. But not yet. That's when Claire's voice cut in. We were on speaker. We have a plan. And just like that, the final phase began. We coordinated everything. The code bomb, now buried in MindGlow's most recent update, timed to activate on launch. The press packet, drafted and prepped for major outlets the moment Mindbridge went live. The investor documents, ironclad, with proof of IP ownership and Chloe's theft. The final confrontation, because this wasn't going to end in silence. Launch day was set, Thursday, 9:30 a.m. sharp. I walked into Orion that morning in my usual receptionist uniform, same slacks, same smile, but under that, a new shirt with a phrase Ava had printed the night before. You should have listened. It stayed hidden beneath my jacket. For now, at 9:15 a.m., Chloe stormed through the front doors, already yelling into her phone. What do you mean it's crashing? No, it was stable yesterday. Check the back-end logs. I watched her pace, her tone rising, her face turning redder by the second. She didn't notice me. Of course she didn't. I was invisible, remember? At 9:20, Claire walked in, crisp navy suit, portfolio in hand. At 9:25, Dr. Chen followed. Calm, poised. Her presence turned heads. At 9:28, Ava hit publish. The Mindbridge launch post went live across every platform we'd prepped. Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, even TikTok. Screenshots, mission statements, user reviews from the closed beta. It exploded. Within minutes, downloads surged. Server logs lit up. Notifications rolled in. Then came the press stories. Mindbridge launches with emotional intelligence at its core startup. Led by former receptionist leaves competitor in the dust, and then came the meltdown. Chloe burst from the elevator. Rebecca trailing behind her. We need to pull the build now, Chloe was nearly shrieking. User data is leaking. Messages are corrupted. People are posting screenshots. I stood up, calm, jacket unzipped, shirt visible. You should have listened. Claire stepped forward. You might want to read this, she said, handing Rebecca a folder. Contains evidence that Chloe illegally accessed proprietary material developed by Ethan Wells. Rebecca looked like she'd swallowed a stapler. You can't be serious, Dr. Chen cut her off. Oh, she is. And if you try to spin this, we'll take it to federal court, plus the media. You won't win either one. Rebecca turned to me. You did all this from that desk? I nodded. Guess the receptionist was listening. The silence in the lobby was beautiful. And then, the final blow. Liam, remotely logged into Orion's network, triggered a screen takeover. Every lobby monitor displayed a single message in sleek, minimal font. Mindbridge is live. Mindglow was stolen. Then, our download link. I watched in real time as our numbers eclipsed Chloe's dying platform. At 9:45 a.m., Dr. Chen turned to me. Ready for that meeting? I smiled. No, I've got a better idea. I pulled out my badge, laid it gently on the front desk. I'm done being the face of someone else's empire. Let's build our own. 2 months later, I sat in the same corner office where Rebecca Sloan once laughed off my pitch. Only now, her name wasn't on the door anymore. Mine was. Ethan Wells, founder and CEO, Mindbridge Technologies. The blinds were pulled halfway, letting the afternoon light soak in. Down below, the city buzzed like always. People late for meetings, running to catch trains, grabbing overpriced coffee. It felt different now, like I had joined the current instead of fighting against it. The office still smelled faintly like vanilla air freshener and ego. We didn't change everything about the space. Some walls stayed. Some conference tables were repurposed. But one thing never moved. The front desk. It was still there, polished, minimal, centered. I'd had it cleaned and refinished, but never replaced. People asked me why. Investors, reporters, my own team. I just smiled. Because that desk wasn't just furniture. It was a reminder, a monument. The place where I'd built a future while everyone assumed I was filing visitor logs and ordering toner. Some of the best things in life are built in the margins, quietly, while no one's watching. And now? Now everyone was watching. Mindbridge passed 5 million downloads last week. Not viral, not hype-driven, just slow, intentional growth. Word of mouth. Real people recommending it to friends because it actually worked. We had partnerships in the pipeline, universities, clinics, even a few major health providers. Our early user base had grown into a full-on community. People checking in daily, supporting each other, journaling in ways that felt authentic. Some of the top-rated comments weren't from experts. They were from high schoolers, bartenders, single moms. That was the dream. Ava had moved in from Chicago to run our product design full-time. She had her own team now, 3 UX leads, 2 content designers, and a dedicated accessibility specialist. Marcus dropped out of grad school and became our lead engineer. Why study algorithms when I can build them? He'd said with a grin. Liam handled cybersecurity. Claire still advised us on the legal side. And Jordan, the friend who'd inspired this whole thing during his worst days, stopped by every Friday just to say hi and refill the snack fridge. And me? I was still figuring out how to be a CEO. Some days I still expected someone to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Time's up, Wells. Back to the desk." But the emails kept coming. Investors, partners, journalists, developers asking to join. Users sharing how Mindbridge helped them through a panic attack or a depressive spiral or just a really bad Tuesday. We were making a dent, not in tech headlines, in people's lives. But not everything ended in sunshine. Rebecca Sloan resigned the day after our launch. The press release called it a planned retirement. No one believed it. The Mindglow disaster had made national news. Our embedded code had triggered a cascade of system failures, data loss, and, worst of all, screenshots. They'd stolen an idea, and we had proof. Chloe disappeared off social media entirely. Last I heard, she was in Lisbon, resetting. Some influencer circle or crypto retreat. I didn't care. I wasn't angry anymore. Because here's the truth no one tells you about revenge. The real win isn't watching someone fall. It's building something so good they have to watch you rise. And I wasn't alone anymore. We'd built this together, on ramen and Red Bull, midnight code pushes and nervous investor calls, whispered Slack messages from stolen minutes on reception breaks. And every person who joined now, they were joining something that began when everyone else stopped believing in it. When everyone else stopped believing in me, Dr. Chen visited last week to finalize the next round of funding. She didn't come alone. Brought a whole team from Horizon Ventures. Suits, clipboards, analysts. They walked through the office like it was a museum exhibit. Is this where you actually worked? One of them asked when we reached the front desk. Right here, I said, tapping the glass top. Version 1 of Mindbridge was written between lunch breaks and phone calls. He laughed. That's wild. Dr. Chen just smiled. After the tour, she pulled me aside. You're not what I expected, Ethan. What did you expect? She shrugged. Someone who's chasing success to prove a point. But I think you're chasing something bigger. I'm chasing impact, I said. We all are. She nodded. Then keep going. I walked her to the elevator myself. As the doors closed, she looked back one last time. Keep the desk, she said. Let it remind you where great ideas are born. I already planned to. Later that night, I stayed late. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. It was quiet, peaceful. My team had gone home. The city had dimmed. I sat at the reception desk for the first time in months, just for a minute, just to feel it again. The hum of the lights, the smell of cheap coffee, the ghost of who I used to be, sitting right here, tapping away, dreaming bigger than the room allowed. I pulled out my phone. Opened Mindbridge. The mission statement appeared first. Everyone deserves to be heard. Simple. Uncomplicated. True. That line wasn't written in a meeting or a brainstorm. It came to me one night when I was sitting at this very desk, feeling like no one saw me. Now I see others, and they see us. And maybe that's the best ending there is. Not revenge, not justice. Visibility, voice, and something real. My phone buzzed. A message from Ava. New junior dev just started. Says he has an app idea. Should I tell him to pitch it? I smiled. No. Tell him to come see me. You never know where the next great idea will come from, even if it starts at the front desk. Story 2. Looking back, I can trace the before and after line in my life with surgical precision. The moment my mom brought Ethan and his daughter into our lives. I was 17 when my parents sat me down on a Tuesday evening, wine in their hands and matching sad smiles on their faces. The "we still love you, but not each other" conversation. No screaming, no slammed doors. Honestly, it was almost unsettling how calm it all was. Dad moved into a downtown loft with brick walls and bad plumbing. I started spending every other weekend with him. Pizza nights, old school sci-fi marathons, the works. I thought I was adjusting fine. That is, until Mom came home glowing like a teenager with a crush. I've met someone, she said over breakfast, stirring her coffee like she was in a rom-com. His name's Ethan. He's got a daughter a bit younger than you. Isn't that nice? I said sure, and smiled the way you do when you're trying to keep the peace but your gut's doing somersaults. Fast forward 6 months, and Ethan, plus his 11-year-old daughter, Ava, moved in. That's when the illusion cracked. Ava had the look of a catalog kid. Flawless curls, designer outfits, big blue eyes that turned into weapons the second adults looked away. In public, she was sweet perfection. At home, different story. My notebooks accidentally ended up soaked in juice. My favorite hoodie got lost and turned up shrunk and stained. One time, I caught her using my laptop. She deleted a week's worth of notes from my final paper. But the worst part? Ethan's constant patronizing comments. That shirt a bit short for school, Kara? Maybe if you weren't always texting, your grades would improve, I told my mom. She'd just sigh and say, he means well. He's trying to help. Then came the science fair incident. And no, that's not me being dramatic. I'd been working on a solar water purifier model for a month. I came home early one afternoon and found Ava in my room, hands stained blue from my ink cartridges and parts of my project scattered like confetti. She froze when she saw me. "What are you doing?" I yelled. "Just looking," she squeaked, hands still dripping with ink. I dragged her downstairs, shoving her stained palms in front of Ethan and my mom like I was holding up evidence in court. "She destroyed my project," I snapped. Ethan leapt up, red-faced. "Don't you dare lay a hand on my daughter. I didn't touch her, she trashed my work." And my mom? She just shook her head and said, "Kara, this is getting out of hand. I didn't sleep that night." I stared at the ceiling while resentment bloomed in my chest like rot. By sunrise, I was stuffing my clothes into duffel bags. I didn't care if they were folded. Dad picked up on the first ring. "What's wrong? Can I come stay with you?" My voice cracked. "Please." He was there in 20 minutes. Ethan was already at work, and Ava was at school. Mom stood in the doorway in her robe watching me load my bags. "You're overreacting," she said, arms crossed. "Ethan called me a fool, and you said nothing. Ava destroyed my work, and you did nothing. I'm done." Dad's jaw clenched when he saw me. When I told him everything, he was livid. He stormed into Ethan's office, and though I waited outside in the truck, I could see them through the window. There was shouting, finger-pointing, and eventually security. Life with Dad was light, peaceful, no walking on eggshells. He even helped me rebuild my project. We stayed up late with coffee and snacks while I rewrote everything. That version of the purifier ended up winning second place at regionals. Mom texted a week later, "I can't believe you turned your father against Ethan. You're tearing this family apart." What family? By the time I graduated high school, I had no real contact with Ethan or Ava. Mom showed up to the ceremony with them anyway, and I pretended I didn't see them. Dad and my grandmother were there in the front row, clapping like I'd won a Nobel. After the ceremony, they hit me with a surprise, a college fund they'd secretly been saving. It was enough to cover most of my tuition at a local university. I moved into the dorms that fall, chasing what I hoped would be a fresh start. And for a while it was. The next few years were a blur of classes, caffeine, and quiet growth. My relationship with Mom stayed lukewarm. She'd reach out occasionally, birthdays, holidays, awkward coffee meetups. She'd talk about Ethan's new car, Ava applying to colleges. I'd nod, sip my drink, and redirect the conversation towards safer ground, classes, weather, anything but them. After graduation, I landed a job at a consulting firm, junior project manager. Dad was proud. So was Grandma. "You could stay with us and save on rent," Dad offered. "I need my own space," I said. And I meant it. I found a little two-bedroom apartment near my office. The floors creaked, the heater moaned, but it was mine. Instead of blowing paychecks on drinks and brunch, I cooked. I brought leftovers to work and volunteered for the worst assignments. People thought I was nuts, skipping happy hour to debug spreadsheets. I didn't care. 3 years in, I got promoted, then promoted again. My savings account swelled. I kept grinding, saving every cent with one goal in mind, buying a house. By 28, I did it. A tidy little place with a backyard and space for a garden. I signed the papers on my birthday and cried in my car afterward. Happy tears. The kind that come from knowing you made it without shortcuts or handouts. I threw a small housewarming party. Coworkers, cousins, a couple old friends. Dad and Grandma couldn't come, they'd retired to Arizona, but I invited Mom. Explicitly. "Just you," I said over the phone. "Please, just you," she agreed. Or said she did. The doorbell rang the day of the party, and there she was, Ethan and Ava in tow. "Surprise," she said, all fake cheer. I froze. My grip tightened on the doorknob, but I said nothing. I let them in. Ethan had that same smug smirk, the one he wore when I was a teenager, and he'd mock my phase of liking robotics. He looked around the house, unimpressed. "It's cozy," he said. Ava, now 22, still immaculate, flounced through the rooms like she was on a Zillow tour. "The kitchen's kind of small, huh?" I walked away before I said something I'd regret, but I overheard her in the living room later, voice dripping with sugar. "I'm looking at houses too. Something bigger, maybe with a pool." I walked back in with my drink and smiled. "That's cute. What job are you using to pay for it?" Ava's cheeks flushed. "I have prospects. Prospects aren't paychecks," I said. "And last I heard, Daddy was still paying your rent." Ethan puffed up. "You've always been jealous." "No," I said, cutting him off. "You've always been entitled." Mom pulled on his arm. "Let's go. Now." They left. I didn't stop them. 3 months later, I got tapped to lead a major project in Boston. It meant being away for 4 months. My only real concern? The indoor garden I'd started. Orchids, peace lilies, a temperamental little bird of paradise I'd been coaxing into bloom. I didn't want to lose them, so I did something I never thought I would. I drove to Mom's. She seemed surprised to see me. "Kara, I'm going away for work," I said. "Could you stop by my place? Water the plants?" Her eyes lit up. Of course. I gave her the keys, along with a list of detailed care instructions. She called me once a week to update me. "Everything's thriving," she said, and I believed her. I shouldn't have. I got back from Boston around midnight. 4 months of 16-hour days, daily check-ins with international clients, and more Zoom meetings than I care to remember. All I could think about on the flight home was a long, hot shower and sleeping in my own bed, with my own pillow, in my own silence. The rideshare dropped me off at the curb. The porch light was on. The garden beds I'd planted looked alive, I guess. Hard to tell in the dark. I pulled my suitcase up the steps, reached into my bag for my house key, and slid it into the lock. Except it didn't work. I tried again, slower this time, thinking maybe I was just tired. Still nothing. My key, the key I'd used for years, wouldn't turn. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Inside. Someone was inside my house. At first, I thought maybe it was Mom. Maybe she was just still there from earlier in the day, doing some last-minute watering or tidying up. But then I heard the TV loud, like someone was settling in for the night. Not visiting. Living. One knocked. No answer. I knocked harder. The door opened. Standing in the doorway, wearing one of my old hoodies, with her hair up in a bun and the gall to look annoyed, was Ava. She blinked like I was the intruder. "Oh, you're back early." I just stood there, suitcase in hand, brain buffering. "What are you doing here?" I finally asked, my voice dry, my throat tight. She shrugged. "Living here. Dad helped me move in after your mom said it was okay. You've been gone for months. The house was empty." I laughed. Actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "No. You're not living here. This is my house. You need to leave. Now." She leaned on the doorframe. "My doorframe. Yeah. That's not happening. I'm kind of settled in. Master bathroom is amazing, by the way." And then she closed the door in my face. Locked it. From the inside, I just stood there, stunned, on my own porch like a guest who showed up to the wrong Airbnb. My suitcase thudded as I dropped it beside me. I stared at the door. My door. After about 10 seconds of sheer disbelief, I snapped out of it and pulled out my phone. "Called Mom," she answered on the third ring, groggy. "Why is Ava in my house?" I said, sharp, clipped. "Kara, it's late, answer me." There was a pause. Then she said she needed a place to stay. Her lease ended. Rent went up. "We didn't think you'd mind." "We?" Ethan and I. We figured since you were away, you figured you could move her into my house and change the locks without asking? We changed the locks because the back one was sticky, Mom. I cut her off. Get over here. Right now. You, Ethan, whoever. Get her out of my house or I'm calling the cops. She sighed like I was the one being dramatic. Just wait. Please. Don't make a scene. 30 minutes later, their car pulled up. They got out in coats thrown over pajamas, looking like the picture of inconvenience. Ethan marched up the steps like he owned the place. Mom trailed behind, wringing her hands. What the hell is going on? I demanded. Ethan raised his hands like he was the voice of reason. Let's not yell in the middle of the night. You changed the locks on my house and let your daughter move in without my permission. You don't get to police my volume. Mom stepped forward, soft voice, trying to play peacemaker. Kara, she had nowhere to go. It's just temporary. I don't care if she's living in a cardboard box. She's not living here. Ethan shook his head, condescending. This house is too big for one person. You've got extra rooms, and you weren't even here. Unbelievable, I muttered. You think I owe you my space just because it exists? It's just more practical this way, he continued, like he was making a business pitch. She needed stability. No, I said, voice low, steady. She needed a landlord, which I'm not. I gave my mom a key to water my plants, not to turn my home into a backup crash pad for your adult daughter. You're being selfish. That came from Mom, and I swear something inside me cracked. Selfish? The first repeated. You want to talk about selfish? I raised you to be compassionate. No, I said. You raised me to stay quiet while you prioritized them. Every time Ava trashed my stuff or Ethan insulted me, you asked me to be the bigger person. Well, guess what? The bigger person finally grew a spine. They didn't respond. Just turned and walked back into my house. So I called the police. The officers showed up about 20 minutes later. Neighbors were peeking out of windows by then, porch lights blinking on. I didn't care. I handed over my ID, showed the deed on my phone, and explained everything: the trip, the plants, the changed locks, the unauthorized squatters. One officer stayed with me while the other rang the bell. It took a while, but eventually the door creaked open. Ethan answered, flanked by Ava and Mom. Ava looked pale now, not so smug. We've had a report of illegal occupancy, the officer said. You're going to need to provide proof of residency. Ethan jumped in. This is all a misunderstanding. Kara gave us permission. No, I didn't. Ava piped up. Dad said it was fine. I thought she knew. She didn't, the officer replied. Changing locks without the owner's consent? That's breaking and entering. Ethan's face turned red. Ava looked like she was about to cry. We're going to need to take statements, the officer added. And we'll be escorting everyone who doesn't legally reside here off the premises tonight. Mom looked at me, betrayed. Kara, don't do this. You already did, I said. Ethan and Ava were taken down to the station. No handcuffs, but plenty of questions. Mom didn't go with them. She just stood there on the porch, trembling, arms crossed like she was cold or cornered. You've burned this bridge, she said softly. You're not my daughter anymore. I didn't even flinch. You chose them, I said. Every time. And now you're mad I finally chose myself. She didn't respond, just walked to her car and drove off into the night. I spent the rest of that night in my living room, surrounded by AVA's clutter. Expensive shampoo in my shower. A tote bag with her initials on my kitchen counter. Photos of her on my fridge. The next morning, I called a locksmith. Every lock got changed. I boxed up Ava's things and had them delivered to Mom's. Then I went room by room, clearing out the stale perfume, the mess, the memory of her smug little face in my doorway. Most of my plants had died. My beautiful peace lilies were brown. The bird of paradise I'd spent months coaxing into bloom had wilted into nothing. I threw them all out, every single one. Started from scratch. It's been a few months now since that night. The one where I stood on my porch, locked out of my own house, listening to my stepsister laugh on the other side of the door like she belonged there. They don't come around anymore. I didn't press charges, not officially. The police asked if I wanted to take it further. But honestly, I was too tired. I didn't want court dates and drama. I just wanted them gone. But I made sure a formal trespass notice was filed. If Ava or Ethan set foot on my property again, it's not just a warning. It's legal. After that, I didn't hear much. Ava went quiet, no calls, no texts. Mom tried once, left a voicemail I never listened to. Ethan, he sent me an email that was basically a badly written threat. Something about emotional trauma, and you'll regret treating family like strangers. I forwarded it to my lawyer, never heard back. Ava, though, she turned to Instagram. Vague stories about fake people who act like victims, dramatic quotes about outgrowing toxic energy, and a photo dump of her crying in her car. I got tagged by a few mutuals. Unfollowed. Blocked. Moved on. I spent an entire weekend resetting my house. New bedding, new shower curtain, candles. I repainted one of the bedrooms, just because I could. I bought fresh plants, hardy ones this time, and put them near the windows. No more tropical divas that need daily pep talks to survive. I took back my space, inch by inch. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I realized something that hit a little harder than I expected. I wasn't sad. Not really. I didn't miss my mom. Not like before. Not like when I was younger and still hoping she'd choose me. I guess, over time, your heart just gets tired of waiting for someone to show up differently. About a month after the whole thing, I ran into my cousin Mina at the grocery store. She hugged me in that tight, lingering way like she wasn't sure I'd let her. I heard, she said softly. Mom said it got messy. Messy's one word for it, I replied. She said your mom's devastated. I just shrugged. She made her choice. I made mine. Mina looked like she wanted to say something else. Something helpful or comforting, but stopped herself. Smart move. Not everything needs a moral or a hug at the end. That's something I've learned the hard way. A few weeks later, I finally flew out to visit Dad and Grandma in Arizona. First time seeing them since I bought the house. They picked me up from the airport like I was still a teenager coming home for break. We didn't talk about Mom. We just ate good food, drank wine on the patio, and laughed until my cheeks hurt. I slept better those nights than I had in years. One morning, Dad made coffee and handed me a mug like he always used to. Same way he did when I was cramming for finals. Eyes barely open. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Yeah, actually. Yeah. You look lighter. I feel lighter. We didn't say anything else. Didn't need to. Back home, things just kept moving forward. I got promoted again. Senior project lead. I finally bought that espresso machine I'd been eyeing for 2 years. Small thing, but it felt big. Like a gift to the version of me who used to ration out groceries to keep saving. One Saturday, I sat on my back patio, sipping my fancy espresso and watching the breeze stir the leaves on my new plants. I caught myself smiling at nothing. Not the forced smile I used to wear at family dinners. Not the polite one I used for office politics. Just peace. That's what I'd built. That's what no one could take from me. I still get the occasional guilt trip. An old family friend texted recently, I ran into your mom. She misses you. Says things just got out of hand. I didn't reply. Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some families aren't broken. They're just not yours anymore. And that's okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting people back in. It means letting yourself move on. I'm not bitter. Not angry. Not anymore. I'm just done shrinking myself to make others feel comfortable. There's a quiet kind of revenge in building a life they can't touch. Not through court battles or shouting matches, but through distance, through boundaries, through peace. They thought they could take my space, my security, my home, but I got all of it back. And then some. So if anyone's wondering how it ends, it ends like this. With me waking up in a bed I paid for, in a house I own, with the sunlight hitting the plants I kept alive, with laughter from friends who show up when I need them, with love that doesn't come with conditions, with silence, not the painful kind, but the kind that sounds like freedom. Story 3. You never forget the moment you realize you were just background noise in your own family. My name's Natalie. I'm 33 now, but the truth hit me when I was 5. That's when my parents sat me down and said, "You're going to be a big sister." Everyone was thrilled. A best friend for life, they promised. Her name was Bella, and from the moment she arrived, it was like someone had flipped a switch. I wasn't the only child anymore. I wasn't even a child. I became the extra, the default, the fallback. Growing up in the Warner house was like playing an endless game of guess. Who matters less? Spoiler, it was always me. Mom made Bella's breakfast every morning. Eggs sunny side up, toast cut into perfect triangles, a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice. Me? I got a half-empty box of cereal tossed on the table like I was a stray. Every milestone I hit straight A's. Science fair trophies, college scholarships was barely acknowledged. But Bella? A B- in algebra earned her a cake, balloons, and a Facebook post gushing about her brilliance. Braces? Dad balked at the cost when I needed them. 2 years later, Bella got clear aligners without hesitation. It's important for her confidence, Mom said. At some point, I stopped trying to win them over and started building my own little world. School became my safe place. I loaded up on AP classes, joined clubs, worked part-time to stash away money. When my acceptance to Penn State came in with a full scholarship, I hoped I'd finally get a "we're proud of you." Instead, at dinner, Mom said, "Bella, tell us about your student council campaign." I moved out the second I graduated. Holidays became obligations. My visits home were short, scheduled like root canals tolerated, but mostly avoided. Bella was the headline. I was the footnote. Then came Mike. He messaged me out of the blue one evening, Mike Harris, the senior from high school debate team. We used to have locker banter, but nothing more. Turns out he never forgot me. We reconnected fast. I moved back to town after graduation for a project manager job, and we picked up where our messages left off. Coffee dates turned into movie nights, and before long, we were looking at apartments together. Mike was kind, steady, the kind of man who never forgot the way you took your coffee or the names of your coworkers. His family, especially his mom, Denise, treated me like a daughter from day one. I didn't realize how badly I needed that until I had it. We had a quiet, beautiful wedding in his parents' backyard, just a small group of friends and family. My parents were there physically, but emotionally, checked out, bragging about Bella's new job in finance while I was literally signing my name on a marriage license. But I didn't care. I had what I needed. A couple years later, we welcomed our son Leo. The moment I held him, something shifted. It wasn't just love, it was purpose. My parents didn't show much interest in him. No balloons. No hospital visit. Babies are messy, Mom said once. Bella never really liked children either. Leo was everything. I loved being his mom, even when things got hard, which they did. When Leo turned 1, Mike started coming home later, smiling less. One night, he sat across from me and dropped a truth bomb. He'd fallen for someone else, a client. Her name was Kara. "It just happened," he said, "but I still want to be a good dad." To his credit, he kept that promise. The divorce was fast, civil, and honestly a relief by the end. He moved out west with Kara but made sure Leo and I were always supported. More importantly, his family didn't flinch. Denise and her husband were still grandma and grandpa. Mike's sister Elle, who'd been my unofficial maid of honor, became my rock and Leo's favorite person besides me. My own parents? They never even called to ask how the divorce was going. They barely remembered Leo's birthday. But they did send a fruit basket when Bella got promoted. So, that's where we were. But I was doing okay. I threw myself into work, picked up big accounts, climbed the ladder faster than anyone expected. When I closed a major deal with a European client, I got promoted to senior account director corner office, big bonus, the whole package. That's when I decided it was time for a fresh start. Leo and I found a cozy 3-bedroom townhome near a park. The school district was great, and it had a small backyard where he could finally plant the sunflower seeds he was obsessed with. I watched him run from room to room during the open house and knew this was our new beginning. And weirdly, that's when my parents started reaching out. "Sweetie, we haven't seen you or Leo in so long. Why not come by this weekend?" Suddenly they had free time. Suddenly they remembered they had a grandson. I was wary, but Leo deserved grandparents, didn't he? At first, it was awkward. They were trying too hard. New toys, awkward hugs, cookies baked like we were on a Hallmark set. Leo loved it. I smiled through it. Over the next few months, they started asking if he could spend weekends there. I let them. It gave me breathing room, and he came home happy. Then came the money asks. A plumbing bill, a small repair, a car payment. Nothing huge, manageable, even easy with my new salary. "Of course," I said, thinking about all the things they'd denied me growing up that Bella got with no questions asked. Maybe this was balance? The big ask came over Sunday dinner. "Natalie, your father and I were thinking of upgrading the car. With your new job, we thought maybe you could help cover the payments." I nodded. I shouldn't have, but part of me still craved their approval. Or maybe I just wanted Leo to keep seeing this version of them, the sweet, doting grandparents. And then it all shattered. It was a Tuesday. I'd just finished presenting a new pitch when I doubled over with sharp, sudden pain. "Appendicitis," the doctors said. "Emergency surgery." I was going to be under within the hour. My first thought? Leo. I called my mom, hand trembling. "I need help," I said. "I'm being rushed into surgery. Can you pick up Leo from daycare? Just for a night or two?" Silence. Then, "Oh, honey, that's really not convenient. Bella's having a party tonight. Junior executive. Big promotion. Mom, please. It's an emergency. We can't babysit right now. It's just not our problem. Not our problem." She called my son a burden. After I paid their bills for a year, after I'd let them into our lives again, then she said it like a knife to the gut. "We won't be needing your handouts anymore. Bella's doing quite well now." And she hung up. I stared at my phone in that sterile ER room and made one more call. Elle picked up on the first ring. "I've got him," she said before I could even explain. "Don't worry about a thing." She didn't just pick him up. She made him pizza, built a blanket fort, sent me pictures of Leo smiling like the world hadn't just cracked open under my feet. When I woke up after surgery, I knew what I had to do. Coming home from the hospital was like walking into a different life, one that no longer had space for pretending. Elle brought Leo back to our place, helped settle us in, stocked the fridge, even ran errands while I healed. She didn't make a show of it, didn't ask for anything in return. She just showed up, like she always had. I remember sitting on the couch one night, watching Leo build a tower out of blocks while Elle cleaned up the kitchen, and thinking this is what real family feels like. Quiet, consistent, without strings or guilt trips. It wasn't long before I cut off the monthly transfer I'd been sending my parents. The next day, I blocked them on social media. No message, no warning, just silence. The same kind they used to give me every time I begged for their attention growing up. But karma moves faster than people think. 3 weeks later, my phone buzzed. Mom flashing on the screen like nothing had ever happened. I let it ring. A minute later, another call, Dad this time. Then came the texts. "Natalie, we need to talk. Please call us back. This is serious. We're in trouble with the car payments." Of course, Bella's big promotion didn't come with the financial support they'd counted on. Turns out, she had her own expenses. Suddenly, I was needed again. I ignored the first few messages. Then, one Sunday afternoon while Leo napped on the couch beside me, curiosity won. I picked up. "Natalie, sweetheart," Mom said, her voice dripping with forced sweetness, the kind you only hear from someone who wants something. "We miss you. And Leo. So much. What do you want?" I asked, flat. "Well, things are a bit tight. Bella hasn't been able to help the way we thought she could. And, well, the car," I cut her off. "You mean the car I've been paying for, without a thank you, while you called my son a burden and left me alone in a hospital bed?" There was a pause. "Then, we were just overwhelmed that day. You know how important Bella's promotion was." I almost laughed. "More important than emergency surgery? You're being unfair," she snapped, the sweetness disappearing. "We've done so much for you." I stayed quiet for a second. "You didn't come to the hospital," I said slowly. "You didn't even ask how Leo was. You hung up on me. But now that Bella won't pay your bills, you want me back." "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," I replied. "You used me, and you stopped when you thought you had someone better." Then I said it clearly, finally, "I'm done." Before she could respond, I hung up. And this time, I blocked their numbers for good. That was the moment I realized I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. The next day, Elle dropped off a batch of her famous blueberry muffins, and we talked while Leo played outside with her dog, Max. She didn't ask for updates. She just looked at me and said, "You look lighter." I nodded. I finally stopped trying to earn something that should have been given freely. "About time," she said, handing me a coffee. "You've been carrying that weight since I met you." We clinked mugs. Over the next few months, I built something that looked a lot like peace. My career was thriving. I'd taken on a new international account and had a small team reporting to me. Weekends were for barbecues at Elle's place or park days with Leo. Denise and her husband never missed a single school event or birthday. I remember standing at Leo's school holiday concert, watching him sing in his paper snowman hat, and catching Denise's eyes across the room. She smiled, teary-eyed, and I smiled back, thinking this is what family shows up for. No spotlight stealing, no conditional love, just presence. One night, a few months after the hospital incident, Leo brought home a school project, a family tree. He spread the paper out proudly on the kitchen table. "Look, Mom, there's you, me, Auntie Elle, Grandma Dee, Grandpa Ron, and Max." I smiled at his careful drawings, the little stick figures labeled with wobbly handwriting. But I noticed something missing. "Where's Bella and Grandma Sylvia and Grandpa Pete?" I asked gently. He shrugged. "I didn't put them in. Miss Harper said we should only draw the people who make us feel happy and safe." So I didn't want to lie. That was it. That was everything. I helped him tape it to the fridge, right beside a photo from his last birthday party, Elle holding the cake, me laughing, Leo mid-blow on the candles, Max sneaking a paw onto the table. Later that night, I opened a dusty old box from my closet. Inside were photos, old school certificates, letters I once wrote to myself during college. At the bottom, a picture of me and Bella as kids. We were in matching pajamas, building a blanket fort in the living room. For a second, I felt the pang again, the ache of what could have been. But then I looked at the fridge, at the life we'd built. Some losses make space for better things, kinder people, real love. A few weeks later, Denise asked if she could take Leo on a weekend trip to the mountains with Elle and her husband. I hesitated for all of 2 seconds before saying yes. Leo was over the moon. I spent that weekend doing absolutely nothing, reading, watching bad TV, ordering sushi, and thinking about all the ways I used to twist myself trying to earn a kind word from the people who gave me life, but never offered love. And how now? The people who chose me chose Leo, did it without question, without cost. That's when it hit me. I'd been free for a while now. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. So I did. To myself in the mirror, quietly, "I'm free." And it felt real. Summer came soft and slow that year, the kind where Leo's hair stayed sun-warmed for hours, and the evenings smelled like cut grass and grilled corn. The heaviness I used to carry in my chest, it was gone, or at least small enough to breathe past. Peace didn't arrive with a bang. It came like steady rain bit by bit, washing things clean. One evening, Leo and I were in the backyard. He was barefoot, chasing bubbles, and I was sipping iced tea on the porch steps. That's when my phone buzzed, a number I'd deleted but hadn't forgotten. Mom. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered, "Natalie, sweetheart." Her voice had that sweet tilt again, like sugar poured over something sour. "How have you been?" I didn't answer, just waited. "Well," she went on, voice lowering into something more fragile, "we've run into a bit of a situation. The car the one you were helping with before, well, it's behind on payments. We thought Bella would help after her promotion, but she says she can't. Can you believe that?" Yes. Yes, I could. "We were hoping maybe you could pick up the payments again, just until we get back on our feet." That old part of me trained for years to fold a guilt-laced sigh started to stir. But then I looked up. Leo was laughing, hair wild, cheeks pink from the sun. Max barked beside him, Elle in the corner of the yard setting up the sprinkler. I blinked, and that old reflex fell flat. "No," I said. "Calm. Clear." "What?" she snapped, like she hadn't heard me right. I said, "No. I'm not paying for your car. I'm not helping. I'm not coming back." There was silence. Then after everything we've done for you, you left me alone in a hospital bed, Mom. You called Leo a burden. You chose Bella again. But when she wouldn't fund your lifestyle, you remembered I exist. That's not fair. It's honest. And you don't get access to me or my son just because you're uncomfortable now. You're being cruel. No, I'm being done." I hung up, blocked the number again, took a breath, and felt steady. The voicemails poured in for a while, tearful apologies, then guilt trips, then straight up anger. "We're still your parents. This is so selfish of you. After everything we gave you." I never replied. I didn't need to, because here's the thing. When you grow up invisible, silence becomes a familiar friend. But now, it was something better. It was mine, my boundary, my line in the sand. I focused on the life I was building, not the one I'd outgrown. Leo never asked about them. Kids are more intuitive than we give them credit for. He stopped bringing them up months ago. He knew who his family was, who showed up for bedtime stories, who clapped at school recitals, who remembered how he liked his pancakes cut into stars. Always stars. Denise and her husband became grandparents in every way that counted. Elle? She was my sister, through and through. Leo even called her Auntie Elle now, without missing a beat. We started new traditions: Sunday picnics at the lake, winter cocoa nights, backyard movie marathons. And slowly, the space my parents used to fill in my life, it stopped aching. It stopped mattering. One day, Leo came home with a Mother's Day card he'd made at school. Inside, in his neatest handwriting, he wrote, "You're my mom and my hero. I love you and our family. Love, Leo." Taped beside the note was a drawing stick figures of me. Him, Auntie Elle, Grandma D, Grandpa Ron, and Max in the middle with a wagging tail. No Bella, no mom, no dad, just the people who stayed. A few months later, I got a message from an old friend who still lived near my parents. Apparently, Bella had moved out of state for a job, and my parents were downsizing. Translation: they'd sold the house. Rumor had it, they were renting a condo now and trying to play nice with church folks who didn't know their history. I didn't care, not in a bitter way, just neutral. Let them live whatever version of the story they wanted to believe. I had my truth, and I had my peace. This fall, Leo brought home a school assignment. "What does family mean to you?" He asked if he could write it with me. I said yes. He wrote, "Family means people who love you and help you even when it's hard. People who don't leave you alone when you need them." My family is my mom, my Auntie Elle, Grandma D, Grandpa Ron, and Max the dog. We laugh a lot. We eat pancakes. We're happy. I read it twice, then a third time. He looked up at me, proud. Is that good? I kissed the top of his head. It's perfect. Because it was. You don't always get the family you're born into. Sometimes you build it from scratch with people who stay, who show up, who make you feel like enough just as you are. And if that means walking away from the ones who never saw your worth, then walk. Run even. And don't look back, because the people who love you, they'll be right there, arms open, waiting. And that, my friend, is everything.